friends. We are back with another episode of Fiction in Real Life. I am Heather Moore, and I'm here with Jennifer Moore and Julie Daines, and we have a special guest author today, Jenny Proctor. And if you are a reader, especially if you love contemporary romance, you have probably come across her books, if not read them. Which brings me to the point that we are doing a giveaway of one of her books. This is the first in a series, so this has been out for a little bit, but I always like to start with book one in a series. If you end up winning this book and you've read it or you own it, then we can get you another one. So don't worry about that. Anyway, so we don't really have any business. So we wanted to give Jenny just a quick opportunity to kind of introduce herself and also to share. She has a couple of fun stories to share that we're going to vote on, of course, whether we would book it. Okay, go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm happy to be here. By way of introduction, what do you want to know? I write romantic comedy. I live in South Carolina, lived in the South my whole life. Originally, I'm from North Carolina, and I mean, as much as I love South Carolina, I'm counting down the days till I can move back to the mountains because that's where my heart is. Mm-hmm. But we're right outside of Charleston right now, and we're enjoying being close to that city and all that it brings because it's a really fun place to be. Got 6 kids, 3 are out of the house, 3 more are still with us in the middle school and high school stages. I write full time, and I really like it. It makes me happy. Glad I get to do it every day. So yeah, that's me. I don't like to cook. Love to watch movies. Yeah, so that's me. Basic intro. Do you want me to just jump right into my?
Yeah, we were just noticing how you wear short sleeves today. We're like, what?
Yeah, because it's 70 degrees outside today, which is crazy. But it was 25 degrees 2 days ago.
That is crazy.
We just that's the fun part about being in the South. But if we do have a really, really cold day, it will last for like 2 days. And then the temperature is always going to swing back up. So we don't really have winter coats. We don't like a hoodie. That's probably good enough most of the time. So I like it. I've gotten used to it, and now I'm totally spoiled. And when I go places that are really cold, I'm like, I don't know why people live here. So I guess you get used to it, but I don't know that I could.
You get used to it, but you also, about this time of year, you're like, why am I living here? After Christmas, it's not as fun to have snow and all the ice and everything, but yeah.
I think especially the places where like it snows in October and then you don't see the ground again until May. I know there are places like that up in Wyoming and other places in the Midwest probably, and I think I would be really sad. I think I would struggle with seasonal, just being in snow all that time.
We have the clouds or the smog clouds. I don't know what it is, but our sky is gray.
It's gray today.
Always gray. It's just this ugly gray. And it makes everything outside kind of black and white gray, just gross. Like I took a picture out my window the other day and I was like, oh, everything in it looks gray. So
yeah. So you're probably really ready for the sunshine when it comes back in the spring.
Yeah.
Boo, gray.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Jenny. What's your first story?
Okay. So this is a story about, I was maybe 15, 16 years old. So just to set the stage, I was living in North Carolina, and my parents were the people who were assigned to work with. So I was, active Mormon growing up, very immersed in the culture, but in North Carolina, the culture was very unique. Like I did not go to high school with any other Mormons. I didn't know any. So, I was a little bit of an anomaly. People didn't really know who I was, but we did have missionaries. If you know anything about Mormon missionaries, they're pretty distinct, like the shirts and ties and the name tags. And so my parents were the adults that in our local congregation that were in charge of working with the missionaries. So we had missionaries at our house all the time. They were always, 19, 20-year-old boys, and I was 16. I didn't really have a problem with this setup. I really liked lots of opportunities to flirt with all the cute boys. But at the time, I was, the boyfriend that I had was a really great, his name was Kyle. He was Catholic. He was great. He was probably the high school boyfriend that I had for the longest. And I mean, he was just a really good guy. We had a lot of fun. We were on the swim team together. But these missionaries liked to tease me because I was dating a boy who was Catholic. And which, who cares, right? But I think they just wanted something to tease me about. And so they would pick on me. And so one time we were having dinner, and there were these the two missionaries were sitting at the table, and I came home from swim practice and joined the dinner a little bit late. So they start asking me questions about where I'd been and who I was with and what I was doing, and bring up the boyfriend again. And I guess I just decided that I was done with their teasing. So I stopped them by saying, well, it doesn't matter anyway who I'm dating now, because I'm going to marry Jared Myers. Now, here's the history behind Jared Myers. I met him at EFY like 2 years ago. EFY is a summer church camp for Mormon kids. So we met, and we'd been corresponding like through letters, like old school letters that we wrote and then stamped and then put in the mailbox. And we were just friends. Like, we really were just friends. But of course I had, had a little crush on him. He at the time was doing missionary service also in Southern California. And so I just casually threw out his name like it was no big deal. And one of the missionaries said, wait, Jared Myers, is he from Pennsylvania? And I just go like white, because he was from Pennsylvania. And he looks at me and he goes, he was my roommate in college. And I was like, what? So I just totally outed myself, claimed that I was going to marry this guy in front of his college roommate and best friend. So of course, this missionary immediately wrote his friend and told him what I said. And we had a good laugh about it years later, because I actually, this is a random weird story, but Jared Myers still lives in Provo and is actually my son Jordan's boss.
Oh my gosh.
So
it's weird. It's a small world, right?
We saw each other again. We talked about it. We laughed about it. I obviously did not marry Jared Myers, because I'm married to someone else. I'm quite happy. But yeah, now he is, like, my son works for BYU Landscaping, and Jared Myers is his boss. And that's my crazy story.
I think that's awesome. So, Julie, would you book it?
I think I would. I think there's a lot of potential in there for, a story to go a lot of different directions. I would want her to marry, in the story, to marry Jared Myers. That would be the thing, right? If you just make up this name and it turns out to be a real person. He was a real person, but in the story it could be a made up name, and someone's like, I don't know. I could just see it going a lot of different directions and having a really fun rom-com with it.
What about you, Jennifer? Would you like the story?
Yep. I love it. I love that. And also, if you're in North Carolina, you do not know maybe how small of a world the Mormon world is. We all know everybody, or everybody knows someone who knows somebody, especially like once they're down in college. That's just really cute. And it's funny that like Jared White isn't like really that distinct of a name where he would have been like, you know what I mean? It's not like, it's kind of a regular name, but that's funny that he picked up on it right away. But
yeah, immediately. And it did happen to be the same person. And I just,
it was there was like a Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr. story like that. Do you remember that? Like that movie?
That is so cute. Only You.
Yeah. Only You. Okay. Yeah. Where it was kind of similar.
Yeah.
But she did end up with him because he's Robert Downey Jr. So,
right.
Well, of course.
Right. Absolutely.
Sorry, Jared White is not Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. So I think it's super cute. I think it'd be a fun story to book. I can definitely see why you write romantic comedy, because you have like some of these experiences to share that you're like, of all the things, like of all the coincidences in the world, like how did this happen? So I think I love reading books where there's there's kind of that funny coincidence, and then, it turns into like a real romance or whatever. So I think it's a super cute idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things though, like where you have to push right up to that line, because at what point are people like, that would never happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it did, so
Yeah.
I think it would be adorable, just if she just really kept pushing it and pushing it. No, I'm going to marry him. No, I'm going to marry him. And then suddenly she's faced with him face to face.
The real guy.
Yeah, right. You could totally, you could also throw a wrench in there and have her marry the guy that she says it to, right?
Yeah, there's so many different directions that it could go.
Yeah. The guy you told, he's totally crushed because he's, that's why he's teasing you, because he's trying to figure out, are you really going to marry, or are you really going to keep dating this guy in high school? And,
right? Yeah. There are a lot of ways it could go. It could be fun.
Anyway, well, what's your second story you have for us?
Okay, so this one is actually the courtship that did end in my marriage. And I'm interested to see how you guys vote on this one, because I've had lots of people say to me, oh, you should totally write this into a book. And I'm always like, I absolutely would not. So I'm curious to see how you guys think and what your opinions are on why I would never do it. Okay, so I was home from my first semester at college. And so 18 years old, I've done one semester away from home and that's it. And so I'm home for Christmas break. And at the time, my parents had been attending church over in a neighboring town at this smaller congregation. So of course I go to them. I go with them to church. So I'm not going to the congregation that I grew up in. Randomly on this Sunday, it's the first Sunday that I'm home from school, my best friend asks me to just drive over to the other church building with her because she wanted to see someone. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. So I just jump in the car and I drive over. So I wasn't supposed to be there, didn't have any reason to be there. I should have just been with my family. But I show up in this other place and I walk in, and the services have just ended. And so I step through the door, and there's still people around the chapel, milling about and talking. And I make eye contact with Josh, who will become my husband. So we make eye contact, and I am not I'm a freshman in college. I'm living it up. I am not looking to be dating someone serious. I just am not even, it's not even in the realm of what I'm thinking about. But when I see him, it's I have this immediate visceral reaction. And I have to go sit down. And my friend is with me. She's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, my heart is beating super fast. And all we did was make eye contact. So he immediately comes over and finds me and starts to talk to me. Ask, I know who he is. I know of him, but we've not met. Because he's 5, almost 6 years older than me. So he was much older. So when he was around in previous years, I was 16. And so good for him for not talking to me then, because he was 21, and that's not cool. But I'm not 16 anymore. So he comes and we talk for a few minutes, and then in a matter of minutes, he has asked me to be his ride to this party that was happening that evening. So I said yes, and then I went home and I panicked because my dad had been driving my car while I was in college, and it was full of Mountain Dew bottles, and so I'm scrubbing my car clean and trying to I think that intuitively I knew that something big had just happened, but I wasn't really processing what it was. Mm-hmm. So we go to the party together that night. I don't remember much about the party, but I remember when we were in the car, he touched my arm when I told him that I had been a swimmer, and it was full body, tingles all over just from that one touch. So that was Sunday night. We spent all day together on Monday. Monday night, we kissed for the first time. Tuesday night, he told me that he loved me, and I said it back. Wednesday night, he went out of town because it was Christmas. And so he went to Georgia with his family for Christmas. So he was gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We talked on the phone a couple of times. Sunday, he came back. We were together all day on Sunday. Monday, 8 days after we met, he proposed. And I said yes. So we got engaged 8 days after we met. And I remember like my older sister, who is my best friend now, I don't know if any of you have ever met Emily. She's very logical. And she, you know, you're smart about your decisions and you don't do anything impulsively. And so like we would talk on the phone and I'd be like, I've met this guy. And then 2 days later, it was like, things are getting pretty serious. And then I remember the conversation that we had the day before we ended up getting engaged. And my sister was like, don't do anything until I get home. Don't do anything until I get home. Because I was so young. I mean, I had been out of high school for, you know, not even 8 months. And all of a sudden I was engaged to this guy who was much older than me. He'd spent several years in the military. He had, you know, all of this life experience, and I was just a baby. But we got married 4 months later, and it's been almost 24 years, and I love him a lot, and it totally worked. So, but there you go. Would I put it in a book? No, because it would be a really boring book. I mean, it was like,
it would be short.
Like it would be 2 chapters
And they live
no
happily ever
conflict.
after.
I know, right?
You need like every conversation to like fill up a chapter, like every yeah,
Right.
to develop a relationship in a short period of time, right?
Or every like touch on your arm. That was like, ooh, that was very cute.
Know,
Very,
right?
very romantic.
That was so sweet.
Well, and it's one of those things where like you read it in a book and you think it's not really like that. And I maybe would have thought that until I experienced it. It really was like that. I mean, like every single moment was like charged with this very real, intense connection. And I think maybe it had to be in order for us to just fall in love as quickly
for
as
you
we
to
did.
take it seriously that fast. And then so you were just home for 2 weeks for Christmas break, and then you went back to school engaged.
I did not go back to school. So I deferred I deferred one semester, and I remember saying to my mom, I'm going to marry this guy. I have to stay home and get to know him. Like, how crazy is that? And so, so I deferred for a semester, and we ended up getting married in April. So 4 months later. And then we went back to school. We went to school together after the wedding. And
yeah, nice.
I took summer classes and caught up, and it was, you know, it worked out. But scary in the moment, especially for all of the adults in my life who love me and just want me to, like, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely. What about Jennifer? Would you book this?
I think I would book it. I don't know if you and Josh would be the main characters. Maybe side characters that everybody's like, what? You know, and the main characters are like the best friends that are trying to talk them out of it the whole time or something. But because it is like but it's darling. And it's fun to hear that it worked out. And I mean, to see with our own eyes.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
What about you, Julie?
I totally think I would book it. I think it's adorable. And here's what I love about it. In so many romance stories that you read, especially I feel like some of the older like Regency setting ones, that people meet and they fall in love so fast, or especially in the like short story compilations, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, they've only known each other for like a week or whatever. But it's fun to hear true stories where there really was magic in the first touch, and magic when the eyes meet, and, you know, magic when they propose. So it just kind of makes all these other little stories just a little bit more believable to me. So I love it for that. Now, one of our viewers, Casey, said, Tia said that you could make it a novella. And I'm like, well, that kind of, what if you did? It could be like a novella prequel. And then there could be a cute little romance story for their children, one for each of their kids or something like that.
There we go. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, obviously it's a true story, so it's super adorable. I think I would, if I was going to write a story kind of with a quicker love, like a week, I would probably just age up the characters. I mean, like at least make the heroine like 21 or 22 so that she has more experience, because then you feel like, because I feel like with you too, and I know we don't really talk about religion on this podcast, but I feel like sometimes you have that like soul or spiritual connection, and then you pray to your higher power or to God or whoever, and then you feel like that confirmation, and that's something that then you feel like, okay, I feel like it's not just me making this decision alone. So then maybe if you did keep it that quick, maybe you would have to bring in the spiritual side of it as well.
Right.
My husband and I, we were pretty quick. Like I met him, I think it was like right after Halloween, so like November 1st, and we were engaged New Year's Eve. So it was really quick, and it was,
Nice.
but not the week.
Yeah,
But I have heard about people that in a week they're engaged, and sometimes like, and I feel like you still did date quite a bit in high school. Like you had boyfriends and stuff. Where some people hadn't had boyfriends in high school, 18 would be way too young to kind of feel like they had, I feel like you just, whatever age you start dating, like if you have some of that dating experience, you kind of know what you're looking for. And then you just, like you said, you had to sit down. So that's pretty powerful.
Well, and even if you're not a member of a specific, like the LDS church, then I feel like you can still get that inspiration and feel like that rightness about a decision. You still can get that feeling of this is right, and I know it.
Yeah.
And I know people too that I've met and only dated like a week and got married, and they're still happy. So it happens, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and what I remember thinking more than anything is that there just didn't seem any other logical path forward. I mean, like I recognized how crazy it was. I also knew that I couldn't not make the choice. Like I couldn't not marry him. Like it just felt so obviously like what I needed to do. And so, it has been interesting though, because I now have, 3 children, that one that's already married and 2 that are old enough to be dating seriously and finding partners that might turn into life partners. And it is really interesting because I say to them all the time, like, you don't need to do what I did. Like, just because it happened to me, you don't need to like take your time, slow down. And mostly like if I could change anything, I think I'd probably go back and give myself 2 or 3 years to just grow up a tiny bit. I mean, it did work out, and we're really fortunate that it worked out. But there were some challenges because I had to turn into a grown-up and a wife all at the same time. And then I had a baby a year after we got married. So I was turning into a grown-up and a mom all at the same time. And that, like, we made it. But there were definitely some struggles. So, I wouldn't change anything. It worked out. And I actually think there's some value in growing and learning together. Like we grew up together. And so we didn't really get set in our ways. We just kind of learned how to do life.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
Yep. It's how it works. I was a teenage bride too. But, it's not horrible thing. But, we grew up together. We were kids, and
and
it's fine. It's an okay way to do it. Another viewer says that she met her spouse at a charity auction. So I hope that Casey, I hope you write that story in for us.
Can you see the comments, Jenny? Do you know how to find those? They're like at the side.
Where do I see them?
The side of the screen. There's a comment thing. It's kind of fun to read them.
Okay, fun. Oh yeah, look at that. Love it.
Someone else had a high school Catholic boyfriend. I love that. Well, thanks everyone. We're excited to keep reading your comments, and you can comment throughout the next few days. We won't choose a winner until probably like 3 or 4 days after we give you guys a chance. But also, we'd love to have any story submissions if you want to email us at our email at fictionirlauthors@gmail.com. Sometimes it takes us a while to get to a story because we try to kind of group everything together into a theme. We're happy. We were grateful to have Jenny Proctor here, and check out her books. This will be our giveaway book, and just comment for a chance to win this. Anyway, thanks everyone. We hope you have a good day. This has been
fiction in
Real
Life.
See you later.